with a comprehensive response. Thank you.
Standards. Even the fruits that you eat and the vegetables that you eat in the market, they are sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. How safe are they? Supplements must be labeled and their contents.
Because I just don't understand. This chairman of trade, in the response, the statement read out by the Honorable Joshua Kutuni, and the gentleman was just standing in front of him. Now he's walked out with the
comprehensive report. Thank you.
And Dr. Pukose, it is a hard task he has taken. This bill literally touches every sector. Realism in it, stakeholder interest. So I think we will go, and if Professor Dr. Pukose is with us in this meeting, and all.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And also I would like to congratulate the Honorable Kutuni, the Vice Chair for the Departmental Committee on Health, on the way he maintains standards within their departments, so that they put the country first and ensure that the goal that the Honorable Dr. Pukose wants to achieve is achieved for the benefit of the country. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Member Vondiwa, you also want to weigh in?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. I thank my Vice Chair, because I'm in the Committee of Health, but also from the Committee of Agriculture. And Mr. Speaker, we had a very lengthy...
Kenyans, when they hear about food, they think the chemicals that we use to spray our farms, herbicides and pesticides. Most of them originate sometimes are smuggled through Tanzania, Honorable Speaker. And we need this issue of food safety to be highlighted. And Honorable Speaker, I think Honorable Kutuni should take this one very seriously. And Chairman of Trade, who have just worked with the short member, as you have just alluded, that he should be informed wherever he is, that he should be very serious on this, because we will be saving lives of Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, we don't know if this...
Speaker, you've said, let the committee...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the side of business, especially for the country, it is extremely sad because some of the drugs being peddled, which you used to treat the animals, are actually injurious. They are actually dangerous to human beings. Very important bill, and we actually going to support it. Thank you. Now, I don't know whether the Honorable Joshua Kutuni wishes to say something, because the next business again has to do with health. But Honorable Kutuni, a lot of commendation from members.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
That I think is what the House was waiting for. We needed to get, comprehensive report just like the one you've given. Sorry. Honorable Kutuni, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is no any other better time that such a bill has come to the House. Mr. Speaker, it is coming at a time when we have many products in the market, including the blue bills that people are taking recklessly. And it's costing most of the senior members in the society. Mr. Speaker, it is also at the time when people are also taking some drugs, necessary tablets, when they take and then they change the color of the skin. Mr. Speaker, I think we need a serious regulatory authority. So, Mr. Speaker, as a committee, we are going to rise to the occasion and work within the very shortest time to make sure that this is implemented. And I thank you. And all the stakeholders are going to be involved. Thank you.
Very well, very well. Of course, the business we are going to, before we go to the next business, which I believe should be, you would also be interested in. Let's hear the final from the leader of the majority party.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 44, 2A, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, 29th of June, 2021, to prioritize the business for on Tuesday, June the 29th of 2021, which was well within the stipulated timelines before the start of the financial year today. Honorable Speaker, during the afternoon sitting of next Tuesday next week, the House will consider the Radiographers Bill of 2019, the Judicial Service Amendment Bill of 2020, the Foreign Service Bill of 2021, and the National Cohesion and Peace Building. I also wish to convey the following cabinet secretaries are scheduled to appear before the departmental committees as follows. The cabinet secretary for the National Treasury and Planning will appear before the departmental committee on finance and national planning on Wednesday, the 7th of July, 2021, to respond to 112 of 2021 by the Honorable Joshua Chepyegon Kandie MP to explain the progress made by Kenya Ports Authority in authorizing, designing, development, and commissioning of additional green bulk handling services at the Port of Mombasa. Number two, the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Services will appear before the Department Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on Tuesday, the 6th of July, 2021, to respond to the question number 191, 2021, by the Honorable Godfrey Osotsi regarding the plight of Kenyans working in the Middle East generally and the death of Ms. Milvin Kangereha in particular. Still on this category, the cabinet
bills have to be stepped down. We move to the next order.
Order number 8, the Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2019, second reading.
Was anybody on the floor? I'm informed that the Honorable Maoka Maore was on the floor, and he has a balance of 5 minutes. The Honorable Maoka Maore is a Deputy Majority Whip. We go to any other member. Unfortunately, on the requests, the member on top is the member for North Imenti, could assist also.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to support this bill, and I want to say, Honorable Maora, licensing authority which will put in place how the assisted or test tube babies are fertilized with the gametes or whatever it is. Mr. Speaker, this bill goes to talk on page 436 about a couple who are recognized as a marriage under law of Kenya. But Mr. Speaker, many a time people, as we know in Kenya, we've got many single mothers who would want to have a baby, but would not want to be connected with any man. And Mr. Speaker, this bill does not even say what would happen in that case if there is somebody who desires to have a baby, but they cannot have a baby because they cannot commit to a relationship. And Mr. Speaker, we need to even cater for them. Surrogate mother gives the baby to the rightful parents. There are health complications. So when we say they're not going to be compensated, I think that is completely wrong, and that should be left between the person who is going for a cancer treatment or any other treatment, and the male would want to keep his sperm. For many can forget to put it down in writing that there, Mr. Speaker, the same is in conflict with, came with a different color of baby. So, Mr. Speaker, of doing these things, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, I agree that we need this, but we need to refine this bill, and I would wish Mheshimiwa Mili, I'll be speaking to her, because there are a few things which I think the committee has deleted, which should be there, but there are some things which we need to even rectify, like the ones where if we are going to pay. Mr. Speaker, the other issue is, while you're carrying the baby and you do a divorce, what happens? Who then takes responsibility for the baby? What if the mother then does not want the father to have anything to do with it? And if it's a surrogate, what happens? But Mr. Speaker, it needs to be mentioned, how much is somebody going to pay for that storage. We probably charged, I'm just giving a hypothetical figure of 1,000. Because then they know you need it. After 5 years, they can even tell you 100,000 or 1 million. And you know, because you're not capable of doing it again, you have to give that money because you need that case that you're thinking about the future. The future is when they will get to majority.
While I'm contributing, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Assistive Reproductive Technology Bill 2019, brought by Millie Odhiambo, who knows very well the pain that women go through who are not able to get children, Honorable Speaker, and even the men who are not able to get children. Honorable Speaker, but I am civilized, but not westernized. I am a Christian believing in Christ within the parameters of our Maasai tradition and cultures. Yes, we know that there is a lot of pain when you are not able to get a child. But in our cultures and our tradition, there was this reproductive assistive system in which a child belongs to the community, does not belong to a single individual. So all of us used to have children, whether you have biologically or you don't. In our tradition, a woman or otherwise. Honorable Speaker, I wish also in this bill we can incorporate our own culture so that we don't become so much westernized rather than being civilized and forget our tradition and cultures that used to solve. This bill will address many issues and will solve many issues. One of the issues that it will solve is psychosocial trauma the victims who are not able to get children go through. Honorable Speaker, they are referred to in demeaning manners. Barren, they are not able to rise into the occasion. Most of them even die using the blue pills that Honorable Kutunya have just mentioned in the process of trying as much as possible. So, Honorable Speaker, we'll save a lot of lives if we pass this bill so that they can also be able to get children they call their own, where then we don't have people claiming that they are own children. Honorable Speaker, it will also solve the issue of child trafficking.
And I would want him to clarify that the same way men are suffering from...
What we call, you have just scanned, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it will also solve the issue of quacks, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, you know, when it comes...
They are just useless and they can be lied to and they are gullible and they'll just believe. Is the honorable member in order to give that session?
Honorable Speaker, before I was rudely... So, Honorable Speaker, what I was just saying... Honorable Speaker, so it will also solve the issue of quacks, Honorable Speaker, because when you don't control anything, when you don't have the law that will, and the act that will be able to control this issue, Honorable Speaker, then you will find that there will be emergence of very petty clinics, Honorable Speaker. You will get quacks coming in, and we will get sometimes a semblance of a human being, but he's not actually totally a human being, Honorable Speaker. You have seen...
Honorable Rosa Buyu Akinyi.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Right from the onset, I would like to say that I support this bill. I'm sorry that I can't contain myself. Honorable Speaker, despite the fact that I support it, I'd like to say that the definition of the word couple needs to be expanded because indeed, but I'm sure in coming up with this bill, what Honorable Millie has done in ordinary Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, the one thing that stands out for me in this bill are two words: consent and agreement. We know that many times, for example, Honorable Speaker, I might be a woman of 40, and in my dreams, I've always dreamed to have a child who has lots of political power. And when I cast my eyes, I see, Honorable Speaker, actually being made the spokesperson of a whole process of this bill. Honorable Speaker, we go for this technology to just enrich this bill. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Member for Makueni, Manzo Kitonga.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to make comments on this very important bill. Madam Speaker, the technology has advanced, and in other parts of the world, this sort of scenario, mother who has just delivered that child. And I believe any effort to try to change that could be very difficult. And unless you have a law which guides the system and how the whole matter will happen, there is likelihood of a mother delivering a child which is not hers, should have been paid for or may have requested for payment, or there is, according to this law, there will be no, compensation for having taken care of it. Under 18 years of age, or use any sperm, or there cannot be an exception in this law. I think we'll have to do something about it. And if this exception subsists or goes on to be there, or we are, because once they do that, can they be able to sign any contracts? Can they, in this particular field, there are rights of parents and the donors and the children. And the whole idea of having a baby, even at an older age, is very emotional. It's very, is a matter which is very serious, and a lot of people is important. This authority which is being set here is important, and your partners in a marriage or in a situation like that. So wherever there are storages, they must be very, very strict, so that whoever makes this sort of mistake and brings a child in the world which is not expected, other than the punishment, also to make sure from that particular person's resources, that child is brought up to maturity. To put this together, and has been assisted by a lot of experts, we have to make sure it's very strict, because we are dealing with human life. We are whereby, the two parties may be consenting through a contractual obligation, which may be breached, and we have to be sure that the parties who are doing this have the capacity to be able to take their children, to take care of that particular child. Remember also, has to be very thorough, as a very heavy responsibility. Maybe looking at the Constitution again, so that we have an amendment, which is a duty to all of us here. We are dealing with a very, very serious matter, to make sure by the time we release this to Kenyans.
Madam Speaker, allow me from the outset to support the bill and thank the Honorable Wakili Millie Othiambo. It's timely. It's a bill we should support. Perspective. It was there during the days of yore, and the Lord our God was actually not quite happy if he directed you to assist in reproduction and you failed to do so. The consequences were grave, as we read from the Bible. In our societies, conceive and get children the normal way. And therefore, Kenya should actually not be left behind in promulgating laws that would assist such couples or board, so that we do not have quacks coming in to try and run a corporate body whose functions they may actually not know. Then we will be setting up clinics all over, so that we are able to run the business and make as much money as we can out of this, contrary to the principles, the spirit, and the tenets of this act. We have made a provision, and this is quite timely, the rights of parents. You never know what happens to a child at the time of birth. The surrogate mother or the other mother may die, and the father may actually vote, as a result of which it may not be possible for that child to know how it was conceived and born. Therefore, it is important that we have provisions to right of access to information, so that whenever that child, being an adult at 18 years, makes an application to the relevant authority, you are allowed to get the information regarding your birth. Licensing is very important because here again, we have talked about quacks. We've talked about shrewd businessmen who would want to exploit this innovative area of technology that is coming to our country so as to make as much money as you can. We need to improve on the provisions as regards the licensing, what the license is going to entail, and what it is not going to entail, so that we actually have as comprehensive a legal framework as we can. I have looked at, finally, the penalties, and I think that we need to look at, the Honorable Millie is going to look at the penalties, section 57 and 58. I think there is a bit of inconsistency here because
to kids or babies, or what is popularly called as the IVF process that to many Kenyans, generally in the villages and communities, is foreign, but is not that foreign. Honorable Speaker, I also come from a community that really believes in culture, like earlier members, especially Honorable Sangok spoke on this, which believes in vivo fertilization, and can be very conservative about the vivo fertilization, especially within the communities. And therefore, later on, as I'll be speaking on this, the amendments that will need to be required to be done are those that will deal with cultural practices that will tend then to hinder the progress of this bill, which is actually progressive. And also the religious practices that will actually come up. And I'm happy one of the speakers earlier did speak on the issue of possibly even this going to court at one point of time, depending on either cultural practices and the religious practices of the people and the Kenyans who will interact with this bill. But to leave, just to allay the fears again, is that about over 9 million people living in the world stigmatized on the basis of being unable to have a child or get a child for both the men and the women. Honorable Speaker, the bill further comes up to regulate the obligations of obtain are high, and even the prices of the people who get these services is very, very high. So I think this bill is timely to deal with that aspect of those of us within the society who are unable to otherwise get children using the normal vivo fertilization procedure. Honorable Speaker, the bill creates an authority to deal VAF so that never again shall we have this being done underworld. And people having mysterious babies and stories hyping the headlines of newspapers that there's these tasty babies that have been produced. Further, I think with this authority, the cost, like I said earlier, will be reduced. Because I hear currently, and on the authority as such, to go through these processes, people pay as high as $1 million or between a lot of money. So the cost will go down, and so on and so forth. And this will actually finally save the public from the stigma of either having a baby or not having a baby. Honorable Speaker, on the other hand, there are few checks that should, at the correct stage, be amended so that we are within the understanding of the reproductive health in Kenya and what consent is within our society. That can lead to unnecessary debate that we are actually within our ranks sneaking a change into the otherwise law that has had a lot of talk, argument, and contribution of how to control the people who will be given the chance to actually carry out these test tube processes. But we risk, Ma'am Millie, we risk having a situation finally where we shall not just and will actually sell babies on the shelves And the market will be another level that will lead us to make another law either here or those who will be there. And therefore, as I conclude, Honorable Speaker, very good law, but has to be calculated very well to fit in our cultural and religious ecosystem. Thank you for this chance. And I support.
Member for Narok West, behind your mask. Oh, that is Honorable Washiali.
Correct. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker,
Yes.
this is Thursday afternoon, a day allotted from private members, order number 95, to request the mover to reply. Thank you,
All
Honorable
right,
Speaker.
I'll have to. Order members, I think the Honorable Member for Narok West was on his feet, so I'll probably allow him, and one more on this side, 3 members, and then we prosecute the motion by the Honorable Washiali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for such a bill. It is timely. The whole world actually has embraced technology, and Kenya is not an exception. Madam Speaker, the reproductive bill to 2019, which sought to establish authority, actually the reports, and I think the honorable member has done a bit of research on this topic. And we have been informed that the country, Kenya, we have got an infertility rate of about 12%. So establishment of such authority to regulate, reproductive technology will help us as a country in such a situation. So I want to support this bill, and I think as a country we stand to benefit most, the women of Kenya, the couples in general, and we can able to solve a little bit of some of the problems that we have in our societies. And I think my colleague from Narok, Sankok, has talked about in some of our communities we come from, the child does not have a particular parent. Maybe it is a biological, but socially, a child belongs to all of us. And by helping this, we are going a long way to make sure that such problems
ambayo itasaidia watu waweze kupata watoto kwa njia ambazo sizo za kawaida. Kwa hivyo mwanzo nataka kusema kuwa naunga mkono mswada huu hususan kwa watu ambao wawili wameoana na wanataka kamati kuja kumaliza kazi ya mswada huu. Kwa hivyo mwanzo nataka kutaja sehemu ya katiba ya mwanzo kabisa, sentensi ya kwanza ya katiba yetu inao kama Wakenya kuwa tunatambua ukubwa wa Mwenyezi Mungu na muumba wa viumbe vote. Na pia kuna sentensi nyingine hapo mwanzo ya 5 nadhani, ambayo inasema kuwa kama Wakenya tumesema kuwa tutakuza na tutalinda hali ya afya ya sisi kama watu binafsi, ya familia na jamii na kwa nchi kwa jumla. Kwa hivyo kitu cha kwanza ambacho kwangu mimi ningependa pengine kiwe kitakuwa hakimo ndani ya sheria ni kuwa kuna neno katika hiyo bill inasema, inaitwa kwa Kiingereza ni donor, ama yule ambao atapeana aidha kama ni mwanamke yai lake au kama ni mwanamume mbegu yake. Kwa hivyo mimi ni kusema tu, kwa sababu Kenya ni nchi ambayo tunafuata dini wengi wetu, kuna Waislamu, kuna Wakristo, na tunajua sana katika malezi yetu na vile wenyewe tunapenda jamii yetu iwe, tunapenda kuheshimu ndoa. Watu wawili, mume na mke, walokuja katika serikali yetu kila siku tunatafutia suluhu. Kwa hivyo hii pia itakuwa njia ya kuongeza idadi ya single parent, ama yani mzazi mmoja, ambapo sahihi sisi wenyewe ni kitu ambacho hatukipendi yani kwa tabia zetu na malezi yetu na uzoefu wetu. Lengine ni kuwa baba ya atakayetoa ile mbegu inaweza kukaa hata baada ya kuwa ashafariki, inaweza kubaki ile mbegu na kutengeneza mtoto. Lakini sana sana kweli tunaona huruma kwa watu ambao hawawezi kupata watoto, na ndio maana pia na unga mkono. Lakini pia saa nyingine tufikirie na mtoto atakayezaliwa. Je, yeye atahisi vipi kuwa ni tofauti sana na binadamu wengine, mpaka mzazi wake alikufa pengine miaka 5 iliyopita, na yeye baada ya mzazi kufariki ndo anaanza kuumbwa kutumia teknolojia. Na kwa Kiingereza wanatumia neno stigma, hatujajua na wao. Kwa hivyo hata kama tunataka kupata watoto, tuna uchungu na hilo, lakini pia tufikirie na yule mtoto akishazaliwa, je, maoni yake yatakuwa vipi? Na pia ile kwa watoto kuwa hawatajua mzazi wake, pengine asijue babake ni nani ama asijue mamake ni nani, kuna huo uwezekano. Na mimi nishafuatiliza sana kesi nyingi Uingereza, ambapo teknolojia hii imekuwa na miaka mingi sana. Utaona watoto pia ile mbegu ni ya wazazi wengine, yani surrogacy, yeye peke yake ndo anabeba tu mtoto. Na kuwa pia kuna nchi kadhaa ulimwenguni imeweza kukataa hiyo kwa sababu ya sababu tofauti, na mojawapo kubeba mtoto pia mwanamke, licha ya kuwa anasaidia watu wengine kupata watoto, lakini je, yeye pia ile hali yake ya akili na fikira ya kubeba mtoto alafu kisha aweze kupeana, kwa sababu mtoto ukibeba pia kutoka siku ya kwanza ni kama wataka kumlinda, unaona ni mtoto wako na una uhusiano naye, na baada ya kuzaa inabidi sasa upeane. So haijafikiriwa, na ndio maana naona baadhi ya nchi chache zinakataa hili, kwa sababu kuna athari. Ndio umesaidia watu wapate mtoto, lakini je, yule alobeba athari kwake ni zipi? Na pia lengine ambalo nahofia ni kuwa hii pengine mheshimiwa hakuwa na nia hii, nafahamu manake niko naye siku nyingi na namsikiza, na ni mwalimu wangu kwa mambo mingi pia ya bunge, lakini mimi naona kuna kwa Kiswahili, samahani, lakini sina neno lengine isipokuwa hili, kwa sababu ni neno laitwa ushoga, ambapo kwa Kiingereza ni homosexuality. Hii yaweza kutumiwa kama...
My first proposed amendment, Honorable Speaker, is in the Constitution of the Authority, where we are talking about that the board shall appoint the Director General. I think in the current constitutional dispensation, I would suggest that the board shall recruit competitively, because when we leave it to just appointing of the Director General, then anybody can appoint anyone, not just what is the criteria. I think should be recruited competitively, and I think the regulations will guide us on how the board shall competitively recruit the director. So the two of them are assisted to conceive. It could be the man who has the problem. It could be the woman who has a problem. Madam Speaker, I would also be looking at this, when you are assisting people who are married, why should these people be able to get somebody else to carry that child? Because I think this is where, Honorable Mapona, you will have challenges, especially from the religious sector. Because when it comes to surrogacy, I think that section on surrogacy, I think it will be proper, because we want this bill to move forward. We want this bill to also assist in terms of having at least regulations, having guidelines, having even licensing. Those who want to have children cannot afford it. But if we make it affordable, we make it that even regional hospitals, maybe Nakuru, Embu, Nyeri, Kisii, and all those level 5 hospitals, they are able to do this, then it will become more accessible and affordable to the general public. So to start us off, because we've seen where surrogacy has been practiced and it has become a challenge, I think that section on surrogacy you'll have to delete it. Because it is going to bring problems. We've seen issues, people will be able to, especially on the religious side, it will be, I know you have good intentions, but it will be misinterpreted to promote even homosexuality, as my colleague is saying. Because when two gentlemen or two people get together, two men get together and they get married, then it means they'll look for a woman to carry the baby, and that child will belong to them. They'll be able to enter into consent and all those things. But that might not be able to help us a lot. But let's delete that section on celibacy, on surrogacy, surrogate mothers for the time being, so that it can allow this bill to go forward. Because if that is allowed, then to me and to many people in the religious section, it is going to be interpreted to be just more than just surrogacy for the person who intends to have maybe is over 40, past menopause, you are not able to get a child, and you still want a child. But if you are past 40, you are getting a child, you are even gone to menopause, how will you have an egg to donate? It's not possible. So the other section is, when you want to, when you want to get a child through this means. I heard the honorable member for Meru Central saying that you can even manipulate. I've seen you've come up with you cannot be able to clone as far as this laws is concerned. You cannot clone. So the issue that had been raised by the honorable member that you can be able to manipulate the eyes, the hair, and all that, this law does not allow that. So it does not, it prohibits cloning. So we would want that to be taken very clearly outside there, and for any person to read it and understand that Honorable Mapona has provided that cloning cannot be done. So this is not cloning. It is fertilization with assisted technology. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I'll support, but with amendments. Thank you.
Order members, honorable members, the Honorable Washiali has moved a motion under Standing Order 95, and I have no choice but to subject it to a question so that we can proceed depending on the decision the House takes. Therefore, I would wish to put the question, which is that the mover be called upon to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Mover?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, with your permission, if I could just leave this because help me outside, Honorable Mauka Maore, Dawu, David Sankok, Rosabuyu, Dan Maanzo, Murungara, Milemba, Tongoyo, Zuleka, and Puhose. Madam Speaker, I just want to say thank you very much to all of you for supporting this bill and seeing the necessity for this bill to come at this time. Madam Speaker, I know there are several members who would have wished to speak. I'm not allowed procedurally to donate. I wish I was, but when you move this procedure, I can't donate. But having said that, Madam Speaker, I just want to say that I know those members really wanted to support us, and I actually want to thank the majority whip who also wanted to contribute, and he has indicated for me his concerns, especially from the Catholic Church, which I do appreciate, and perhaps we will try very much to include a section that recognizes the religious concerns, but while at the same time underscoring the fact that we are also multi-religious and everybody has a conscience and allowed within constitutional remits, Madam Speaker, to practice certain rights. Madam Speaker, I want to indicate that just as much as when I brought it in the last parliament, I'm actually amazed at the numbers of members of parliament who have come to me who actually have had children through assisted reproduction or who are trying to have children through assisted reproduction. One of the members who actually even got opportunity to speak but could not say speak for himself because he was speaking on behalf of his wife, gave me a horror story about what the wife has gone through, but because the wife, because of the way she's stigmatized, didn't want to speak about it. Therefore, he said he will be here and he will continue supporting, but a lot of people are struggling through. We also, one of the people who spoke to me is a very young male member of parliament again, who is struggling to have a child through assisted reproduction. But I have two members that I want to, there's also by being able to carry on their own. So sometimes, as much as we may want to look into that, but let us not victimize. We also have, and I'm glad for the member who said, if you look at the book of Ruth, Madam Speaker, I think it's the book of Ruth if I'm correct, where God punishes you if you don't want to further your brother's lineage, Madam Speaker. So assisted reproduction is actually biblical. And Madam Speaker, I just want to also say that Honorable Shakil Shabir requested me that he wanted to speak to this bill, but because he's away, he told me to tell the House that he has 4 children, courtesy of assisted reproduction, and will amend. Madam Speaker, in ending, I just want to indicate that in Homa Bay County, there was an issue that was raised earlier on about the situation of COVID-19. Madam Speaker, I just want to say that even though we are not given an opportunity, it is a terrible situation. I normally deal with about 20 because my constituency is the epicenter of HIV and AIDS in the country. And I usually deal with about 20 or so deaths. It has moved to almost 40 to 50 per week. And I can actually see the epicenters. I don't want to mention now because I know a beach so that I don't cause a panic. But I know a beach, and a beach usually have very few people. I know a beach where within the last 1 month, we have seen almost 10 deaths. That is very serious. So I'm hoping, I've spoken to the CS for Health, that the county may not be able to deal with this. They need to come in and help because our health system are overstretched. People are being removed from morgues. Because I always get information about almost every death. People are being removed, like I have a book where I actually put, a diary actually, where I put when deaths occur because you want to support your people. And you have somebody who was to be buried on Friday, suddenly being told, they have been told to remove the bodies, the morgue is full, they have to be buried now. So Madam Speaker, I'm also calling on the national government to assist. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I do beg to move and thank all the members. Thank you.
You're replying, Honorable Millie?
Oh, sorry. I beg to reply, not move. I beg to reply and thank all the members for the support.
Very well, and congratulations, Honorable Millie. Once again, this is a bill which speaks to a real issue affecting many people who may not be able to speak for themselves the world over. We cannot proceed with putting the question until when the business comes next in the order paper. So let's move to the next order.
Order number 9, the Sugar Bill, National Assembly Bill number 68 of 2019, second reading.
So we have a balance of 3 hours and 26 minutes. And I think Honorable Wamunyinyi, you had, you are moving and had a balance of 26 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, again for the opportunity to move this bill. Actually, I had just started moving the bill before I was interrupted last time. Madam Speaker, this is an important bill for the entire sugar industry in this country. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, you are aware that the sugar industry, as we speak now, is on its knees. The farmers of this country, the stakeholders, the interested parties, workers in the sugar industry working for factories, are in dire serious consequences, Madam Speaker. So we have looked as representatives of the sugarcane growers in this country. We looked at where problems started. When we came together, we have had various forums where we resolved that reforms in the industry will be the answer to the problems in the industry. And Madam Speaker, it was at this point that we noted that the repeal of the Sugar Act caused the beginning of the problems in the industry. The introduction of the Agriculture and Food Authority Act. And this fund, Madam Speaker, was always handy in times when factories needed maintenance, when they needed to be serviced, when they were running short of money or had cash flow problems. The Sugar Development Fund was always available to lend the sugar factories funds for maintenance, for servicing of factories, for sugar development, to support outgrow activities, and so on. But when this act was repealed, the Sugar Development Fund also died, and the levy that was raising funds for the fund, Madam Speaker. So this bill seeks to restore the old status where we had the Sugar Act and the board in place, so that matters of the sugar industry will be given the required attention. Problems that we have at the moment will be addressed, Madam Speaker. So this, Madam Speaker, if you look at the bill, the principal object is to reinstate the Act, which was repealed through that enactment of the Crops Act. And the bill shall restore the roles of the Sugar Board, currently granted to the Directorate of the Agriculture and Food Authority, in the Act that was enacted in 2013. Madam Speaker, since 2013, ineffective stewardship of the sugar industry by the authority has contributed to having many problems in the industry, including non-payment of farmers, increased costs of production due to inefficiencies in the factories, particularly arising from lack of servicing and good maintenance of the factories, declining land acreage under sugar, Madam Speaker, because of the discouragement the industry is getting, the farmers are getting due to non-payment. The lack of, or rather the failure to control importation of sugar into our country. Cheap sugar has been imported into our country by sugar barons, and in fact, our market has been flooded to the extent that even if sugar is produced in the country, there will be no market for it, or even if there was, we will not be able to compete because the sugar that is imported is very cheap, Madam Speaker. Poor management of sugar companies. The lack of research and cane development initiatives, which have been occasioned by the repeal of the Sugar Act, which did away with also the Sugar Research Foundation, Madam Speaker. So the current Sugar Directorate, as I said earlier, is not properly equipped and funded to address the concerns of the industry. And therefore, the need for us to introduce this bill that will put in place the Act, that will put in place the Sugar Board to ensure that
it deals with the issues of sugar, Madam Speaker. Now, it also intends to strengthen the National Sugar Research Institute to match technological advancements that are required and innovation, so that, Madam Speaker, the bill is divided into 8 parts and has 3 schedules. The first part is preliminary, as usual, while Clause 2 provides definitions of terms, that are in the bill, the interpretation and definition of terms. Part 3 is establishment, powers, and functions of the Kenya Sugar Board. But Clause 3 establishes the board as a body corporate with perpetual succession and common seal, while Clause 4 provides for functions of the board, which include, among others, regulation, development, promotion of sugar industry, and facilitation of equitable access to the benefits and resources of the industry by interested parties, stakeholders, farmers, and all those that are involved with sugar matters. Madam Speaker, the Sugar Board also will be responsible for ensuring production of sugar which would also be exported to other countries, and participating in formulation and implementation of overall policies for the industry development. Madam Speaker, Clause 5 provides for the composition of the board, whose members shall serve for 3-year term, renewable ones, and the members proposed in my bill are a non-executive chairman elected by the board from among the representatives and is appointed or published in the Kenya Gazette by the Public Cabinet Secretary. 5 representatives elected by growers and also appointed in the same manner. A representative elected by millers from among themselves and appointed by the Cabinet Secretary. Council of Governors think that that's not enough for them. There are proposed amendments, but we will look at them when we get to the committee stage. Clause 6, Madam Speaker, provides for the powers of the board. Clause 7 provides for the conduct of business. Clause 8 provides for the powers of the board to delegate the exercise of its powers to all functions to any of its committees, established subcommittees, or member or officer or employee of the board. Clause 9 provides for remuneration of the board. And Clause 10 establishes the office of the Chief Executive Officer. Clause 11 provides for staff of the board and protects, Clause 12 protects any member, officer, employee, or agent of the board from personal liability to any action done in accordance with the Act. And 13 provides for liability of the board to pay damages to any person injured or property destroyed or caused by action arising from the Act. Madam Speaker, Part 3 is about licensing and registration. Under Clause 14 provides for the requirement of millers to obtain licenses to operate mills. And Clause 15 provides for the issue of license and license fees. The board shall only issue license to fit. Part 4, Madam Speaker, is on financial provisions, provides for the funds of the board and imposition power to impose those levies. The levies I referred to, Madam Speaker, which were also in place in the past, but they must be approved by the Cabinet Secretary. It also establishes the Sugar Development Fund, which I mentioned earlier, Madam Speaker. Then Part 4 is miscellaneous provisions. Under Clause 25 provides for an annual general meeting of the representatives of millers and growers. Then Clause 29 provides for sugar industry agreements, which are agreements negotiated between growers and millers, growers and outgrowers, outgrower institutions, and millers and outgrower institutions. Then Clause 30 provides for the rights of growers. Madam Speaker, the rights of growers, which include at least, according to the proposals, when I was drafting this bill, the question of privatization was on the table. And then we said 51% of shareholding of all privatized sugar factories should go to the growers, and 51, representation of the board of directors of milling companies. Madam Speaker, Clause 31 establishes the Sugar Arbitration Tribunal, comprising a chairperson qualified for appointment as a judge of the High Court of Kenya, who shall be appointed by the Chief Justice, and 4 members appointed by Chief Justice with expert knowledge of matters likely to come before the tribunal. Part 4 provides for delegated powers. That's under Clause 33, which empowers the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture to make regulations for the effective operation of the Act. We already have regulations which have been published, but I am sure that this will also be, will have to be endorsed by the House when this bill is ascended to and it becomes an act. Part 6 is consequential amendments. Clause 34 amends the first schedule of the Agriculture and Food Authority Act 2013 to delete a reference to the Kenya Sugar Board as a repealed institution. And Clause 35 amends the first schedule of the Crops Act 2013 to delete sugar as a crop whose breeding would require certification. Part 8 is on savings and transitional provisions, Clause 37, 36, 37, and 8, Madam Speaker, which provide for the staff of the Directorate of the current Agriculture and Food Authority to be the staff of the board. All property belonging to the Sugar Directorate shall also be transferred to the board, subject to interest, liabilities, charges, obligations, so on. Then first schedule provides for provisions of vacation of office, quorum of meetings, disclosure of interests, the common seal, contracts, and instruments of the board. The second schedule, Part 1, provides for guidelines for agreements between parties in the sugar industry, such as the scope of the agreements and interpretation. Then Part 2 provides for the roles of different institutions in the industry, the board, the Sugar Research Foundation, outgrower institutions, millers, and so on and so forth, Madam Speaker. Then the third schedule finally provides for provisions on meetings and procedure of the Sugar Tribunal. Madam Speaker, when we were in the process of working on this bill, we were able to look exactly at what the board should do in addition to what I have said. And we did undertake comparisons. I looked at the Brazilian sector, Madam Speaker. And in Brazil, sugar cultivation has played a key role in their economic growth and development of the country. And it was estimated that over time there had been tremendous growth of sugarcane subsector estimated at 10% rate on average, according to the Brazilian Bureau of Statistics 2017. And the impressive performance of sugar industry was largely due to outstanding technological progress in the sugar subsector, coupled with supportive government policies, Madam Speaker. Supportive government policies. And indeed, according to the United States Department for Agriculture, Brazil is the world's leading producer and exporter of sugar, according to the, accounting for approximately 22.5%, which is about 40 million tons of sugar consumed globally comes from Brazil. Madam Speaker, one of the key issues which I noted from Brazil is that there are subsidies on scheduled taxes, the tax regime, that the sugar is not taxed at all in Brazil, Madam Speaker. And the byproducts, the revenue improvements from byproducts goes back to the industry, is used to support the farmers in the industry. While Madam Speaker, in South Africa, when I looked at South Africa has a similar act like ours. It has the Sugar Act, but it is called the South African Sugar Association, which is also an authority mandated to maintain a network of provisions designated to protect the domestic sugar industry against any others, to protect the farmers and the industry in general. And the association is the highest decision-making authority in the industry on common issues of interest for sugarcane growers and sugar millers. But the government over time has also heavily invested in research and development in sugar subsector. This is noted to have enhanced the efficiency and effectiveness in the sugar industry in South Africa. So, Madam Speaker, lessons from the international experience, but maybe before I go to that, I've also looked at Uganda, which just enacted its Sugar Act recently, much later than, that was 2016. And Tanzania also has a Sugar Act. Uganda has a sugar board, Tanzania has a sugar board, and they also perform the functions which I will summarize with when I come to conclude, Madam Speaker. But the lessons from international experience, given the significant role the subsector plays with regards to the substantial number that out there, the number that out their livelihoods, both directly, that earn their livelihoods, both directly and indirectly in the sugar industry, government interventions have come in handy to invigorate activities in the sugar industry. Then supportive legal framework. The legal framework, Madam Speaker, is crucial in the area of sugar production. The case of South Africa greatly facilitates effective enforcement of sugar industrial agreements, and this helps to curb exploitation of growers. This is something we can learn from, Madam Speaker. Then research and development in the sugar subsector can also help to improve sugar production by enhancing the tonnage produced per hectare. If you look at Nzoia right now, Madam Speaker, the production of sugar is too low because the factory itself is inefficient. It has not been serviced for 6 years. No maintenance has been done for the past 6 years. You don't expect that kind of factory to produce sugar and compete in a market. Madam Speaker, subsidy, which I mentioned, subsidy policies can also be adopted in the sugar industry to incentivize investments in sugar production activities. And if the enactment and enforcement enhances the effectiveness of stewardship of the sugar industry, the following benefits shall be realized. One, there will be increased employment opportunities. There will be enhanced foreign exchange earnings from increased exports and reduced imports. There will be rise in public revenue rising from various tax streams. If, of course, there is a zero rating aspect on sugar, then definitely the incomes are going to be higher. Increase in public revenue also. Industrialization and the benefits that we generally accrue from people in employment and farmers earning their dues, Madam Speaker. Better standards of living are a conclusion. The growers and other stakeholders in the sugar industry will definitely enjoy, Madam Speaker. Now, in conclusion, so that I allow colleagues who have been waiting here to contribute. In conclusion, this bill is very important because it will ensure maintenance of factories. It will ensure factories are serviced and function effectively, efficiently, and effectively. And therefore, the workers of the sugar companies in this country are not going to remain unpaid. It's going to ensure that the farmers of this country who supply sugarcane to factories are not going to remain unpaid. They are going to be paid their dues. Madam Speaker, we're going to ensure that there is control in sugar importation, that there will be no haphazard importation of sugar. It will clearly, after a research, after ensuring that there is no distortion in the industry, particularly when to do the sugar import and export, we will ensure that farmers' interests, I would like to say that we expect the government, if this bill goes through, to put in place measures, policies that would ensure the industry is adequately supported. Looking at the budget for this financial year, we did not see anything towards the sugar industry to support even public government sugar companies. While they are ailing, they are in trouble, they are suffering, the government has not taken a keen interest. And you can see from the lessons derived from the Brazilian case, from the South African case, and even on the local scene, government Wangwe Emmanuel to second. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Did you record your moving?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let's have the Honorable Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to second the Sugar Bill, Amendment Bill number 68 of 2019, and as ably moved by the indomitable party leader, Honorable Munyinyi. Honorable Speaker, I just want to give the synopsis on how the issue of sugar has come about in the country. It dates back to the 19th century, in 1902, when it was first introduced in Kenya, especially in the western region of Kisumu. Honorable Speaker, at that time we didn't have any other regions, it was just general. And Honorable Speaker, the first organization that came about was the Kenya Sugar Authority, way back in 1973. And Honorable Speaker, that was immediately after the session paper number 10 of 1965. And with that, Honorable Speaker, we have had a dynamic mariband move around between the Kenya Sugar Authority and the Kenya Sugar Board, which came into force, Honorable Speaker, in the 2001 through the Sugar Act of 2001. Honorable Speaker, these two, Sugar Authority and the Sugar Board, have seen the sugar industry move to a certain level. But something happened in between in 2013, Honorable Speaker, when the sugar bill before the House shall not just help the people of Western, but shall cover Kenya as a whole. We see the industry in Kwale, the industries coming up in Rift Valley, the industries in Nyanza, and the industries in Western, Honorable Speaker. They will all be governed by this act. Honorable Speaker, what is good in this act, in a nutshell, is to bring back an administrative body which has teeth to bite and which has the focus for the industry to move forward. That is the Kenya Sugar Board. which is anchored into the Act. And Honorable Speaker, if it comes into force, there are a few proposed changes in the amendment when it will come to the Committee of the Whole House on the composition and how it is supposed to be administered. But what's important, Honorable Speaker, is that the Sugar Board comes back into force so that it can give direction to the industry. For instance, Honorable Speaker, we lost the Kenya Sugar, the Sugar Development Levy. Where we are today, Honorable Speaker, speaking from one of the factories like Mumias Sugar, it is in limbo, it's under receivership, and Honorable Speaker, the factory couldn't be able to access however small credit it was to go for, just because, Honorable Speaker, if it was to borrow, it was to go to the commercial market. But if the Sugar Development Levy was alive, then definitely the factory would have gone to Sugar Board, gotten some money, and managed to move on as it struggles. Therefore, the bill by Honorable Munyinyi seeks to bring back all these benefits to our farmers. Honorable Speaker, this bill also is aligning itself with the new Constitution, 2010, which recognizes the existence of counties and national government. Agriculture being devolved, the issue of farming shall be ably handled by the county governments, and the issue of the industry shall be done by the national government. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, this bill is timely, as it will also align itself with the new Constitution. And therefore, one factor, Honorable Speaker, comes out, or is not functioning, or is under maintenance, Honorable Speaker, farmers in that region do not suffer, and we don't kill competition, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, those people who could have thought maybe we are going to kill competition, we are going to tie up into one factory, we are simply going to provide a market. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, our farmers will be supported, our farmers will be put into the right position so that they support, they don't lack where to market their product, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the issue that is also good into this bill is that the board shall also have a say in terms of importation of sugar. Today, Honorable Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary with the staff of AFA, his own staff, they sit and decide how much is it going to come in and when. Yes, we know Kenya is a signatory to the regional treaties. We have a quota to import, but Honorable Speaker, organization on how to import is in the hands of the ministry alone. This time, farmers through the board, millers through the board, and everyone and even the county government shall have a stake to decide when to import. This is before the House, Honorable Speaker, and also looking at the deliberations that have come from the stakeholders. Much of it, Honorable Speaker, will be looking at it during the Committee of the Whole House, and will submit it accordingly. Therefore, with those very few and many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to second.
Order. The Honourable Member keying in. Honourable Members, I now go on to propose the question, which is that the Sugar Bill, National Assembly Bill number 68 of 2019, be now read a second time. So members, I note the high interest in members to contribute to the bill. There is sufficient time, so we should not be anxious about contributing. And in the order of precedence, in the absence of the leader of majority and leader of minority, we will have the chairperson, Committee on Agriculture. Honorable Tiran, are you ready to say something?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute as well to the bill, and want to say thank our colleague for bringing it up. Madam Speaker, the sugar bill that came to the National Assembly, Bill number 68 of 2019, was sponsored by Honorable Wamunyinyi and was published on 1st October 2019, read first on Tuesday, 5th November 2019, and committed to the departments in the country. The House may recall, and clearly, as it has been said also by the sponsor and also the colleagues, is that The Agricultural Food and Authority Act AFA collapsed many state institutions in the agricultural sector into one, and this led to the crucial sectors such as the sugar being overshadowed or not being attended to, as well as causing a negative spill over the effect to farmers. Madam Speaker, I know a lot has been said. We've also touched on so many areas on it, but I will also support on the issue, and I think on the fact that we are reestablishing the Sugar Board and the Sugar Development Levy and the Sugar Development Fund shall address these challenges that are facing the areas in the sugar sector. Madam Speaker, the committee also had an opportunity, pursuant to Article 118 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 127.3, was subjected to public participation, and the committee received a memoranda from 8 stakeholders, mainly the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Cooperatives, Council of Governors, Sugar Manufacturer Association, Western Kenya Limited, Natural Justice, Kenya National Federation of Sugarcane Farmers, Sugar Campaign and for Change, Honorable Salo, Wambisi, Busolo, Douglas, Mbarasa, Moses, Kaemba Wasike, amongst others. And the written submissions from various stakeholders, substantive amendments to these clauses of the bill. So, Madam Speaker, various stakeholders had raised concern, and I think it has also been raised here. And a key concern was a number of key issues. Amongst them is this an issue that has also been raised. The clustering of the sugar catchment areas into zones have been very contagious and causing a lot of uproar among the stakeholders. Zoning in the past has limited farmers in terms of market access of their produce and millers, creating monopolies and other areas where their interests are located. To address this, the committee will propose amendments to ensure that the farmers' interests in terms of markets are taken care of adequately. Amongst regulation of sugar imports into the country and criteria to be met before the importation is done. The committee also noted that the local industry have become insolvent. Let me repeat that. The committee noted that local industries have become insolvent due to the non-regulation of imports, which is something of concern, and it really needs to be looked into. There is also need to provide a framework of quality, safety, and health control measures related to the sugar. This will ensure quality, standardization, health standards, and environmental standards as well. Proper framework to the Sugar Disputes Tribunal, and I think the sponsor also mentioned something about that, to address the disputes in the first instance. There is need to provide a framework for inspections of license, premises, and general safety to the environment. Proper research, and I think as it has been mentioned, research is also very important, and I think, as my colleagues also mentioned it, proper research to be done in the sugar sector. Thus, the committee saw the need to establish a Sugar Research Institute with functions related to research and policy. The need to provide appointments of crop inspectors with specific functions and framework to facilitate the inspection in order to improve on the sector. The need to create framework and functions of the county government in relation to sugar, guided by the 4th schedule of the Constitution. Madam Speaker, the committee will be proposing, amongst other functions that will support and also improve the enforcement and monitor compliance with standards among the sugar value chain to facilitate value addition and product diversification into the sugar sector, formulate and implement the strategic plan for the sugar sector at least every 5 years. Local and international sugar markets intelligence and advise stakeholders accordingly. To establish linkage with various government agencies and research institutes to enhance quality assurance in research. These functions are missing in the bill, hence there is need, or the committee felt also that there is need to add that. I know we'll have an opportunity when it comes to the whole House so that we can be able to add on what we feel. And people will also, or other members, honorable members will look at the report and see. Lastly, Madam Speaker, it has been envisaged that with the enactment of the Crops Act number 16 of 2013 and the Agriculture and Food Authority Act number 13 of 2013, the challenges that face the agricultural sector, particularly crops, would be effectively and adequately addressed. But this has not been the case, and the farmer has borne the brunt. And this is not just for the sugar sector alone, but also the tea, coffee, cereal, and other crops as well. The Sugar Bill 2019 seeks to take the farmer back to their days of glory. The farmers' woes are addressed. It may not be perfectly addressed, but it seeks to give sugar sector its much deserved attention in the country. I wish to state that the enactment of the same will sort the teething problems in the sugar sector. I urge our honorable members to go through the report as well, as it is a good report, and I thank the members also who worked together to make sure, the members of the committee, to make sure and we have a very good report, and I would like to thank them for the good work. Honorable Madam Speaker, I do support. Thank you.
The Honorable Oyo, member for Muhoroni.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, for the onset, I want to say that my constituency, Muhoroni, is home to majority of the sugar industries. Muhoroni Sugar Factory, Chemelil, Kibos, and Miwani in receivership are in my constituency, and all these factories have suffered immeasurable interference from the government because of lack of proper support. I will support this bill, and at committee stage, I will float several amendments that may, I believe, will create order back to this. I'm happy that the proposals in this bill have captured salient areas that have been ailed the sugar industry for a long time. Financing through Sugar Development Levy, which died immediately after it took effect from Kenya Sugar Board. The research that would determine the correct sugar value and train the sugar industry workers will be revigorated, and streamlining of imports and exports. I have seen in the bill there is only regulation of imports, but we will ensure that Sugar Board, once reinstated, will be in charge of imports. Sugar Board will be the one to control the import, and the import must only be done when it is really necessary, not to be the order of the day that people who want to get to the Ministry of Agriculture know very well that the eating house is through sugar imports. It has also touched about farmers' representative, which is the key. Every industry must have people of interest, the people who know the head and tail. So here, we in the sugar industry, we have people who are being imposed. In the many sugar industries, Venezuela, Muhoroni, Chemelil, you just find people being appointed, people who have no idea about sugar growing, sugar milling, and they just come there to facilitate the glut of their appointing authorities for importing sugar. So this bill has addressed this very well, and we will come up. The Sugar Board that will be reintroduced. Everybody knows me as a prolific proponent of zeroing, but I decided to eat my humble pie because the fact of factories which have been saving are not operational. So if we bring zeroing today, we will hurt the farmer who is our elector. So the board that is to come and I will float must have a member from Kisii Narok, from Migori Homa Bay, Kericho Nandi, Kisumu Siaya, Bungoma Trans Nzoia, Kakamega Busia, and Kwale. And that should be able to form the Sugar Board. The rest, I will talk about when time comes in the committee. But I want to say that it's a good bill, and we should guard it selflessly and make sure that at committee stage, we make relevant amendments that will go a long way to help the industry. Thank you, I support.
Member for Mumias East, Honorable Shirley Jomo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First, allow me to thank Honorable Munyinyi to have come up with this bill. And this bill is about reinstating the Sugar Act. And Honorable Speaker, I have been in this House when we had the older Sugar Act. And then I've also been in this House when we have the now Crops Act, which introduced AFA that introduced the Sugar Directorate, which has put us where we are, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Kenya is an agricultural country. And there's usually an argument that Kenya is not lacking sugar because people who should have gone back to their farms to farm are instead importing sugar, and that's why we have a lot of sugar in our markets that are actually not produced in this country. Honorable Speaker, that argument for me does not hold water because before the Kenyan sugar hits the supermarket or the table for that matter, it has paid a farmer, it has paid an employee, it has paid the management in the sugar sector, and therefore, Madam Speaker, you can see the number of benefits that the local industry will give to this country. Madam Speaker, this bill is reintroducing the Sugar Act. And if you checked Part 2, Clause 4, there are several functions that this bill will come up to help the industry. For example, Clause 4, Subarticle 1A, it is to regulate, develop, and promote the sugar industry. Honestly speaking, Madam Speaker, it is important that we develop the sugar industry for the sake of farmers who actually are benefiting a lot if this industry was developed. Matters of regulations, Madam Speaker, that is one area that I would really insist that the sponsor of this bill looked into. Because, Madam Speaker, we have had big problems with the ministers of agriculture and now the cabinet secretaries in terms of the regulations that would manage this industry. And indeed, you cannot develop this sector if you don't have regulations, Madam Speaker. Recently, there were some regulations that were gazetted, and looking at them, honestly speaking, they are just there to please some particular millers, and instead of supporting the farmers. Therefore, I wanted the sponsor of this bill, and if he doesn't do it, I'll do it, that during the third reading, we need to introduce a clause where we are asking the cabinet secretary, and we must give him time limit to put regulations that would manage this industry. Because we cannot just have a bill that is not regulated. We cannot have an industry that is not regulated, and that's why we have always, every time, gone wrong. Therefore, I just want to request again that the regulations must be put in place, and the cabinet secretary, after the enactment of this bill, and I'm very hopeful that members will agree with us, that the sugar sector should manage itself again. So that once this bill is put in an act, then we must give the cabinet secretary 6 months at most to be able to come up with the regulations in line with the bill that we would, with the act that we would have actually approved. Madam Speaker, because there are other members who would also want to contribute, let me say something that may not necessarily be in this bill. I want to request, just like the chair of Agriculture and Livestock said, I want to request that just as we reinstate this act, we need to also reinstate the act that brought about the research aspect of the sugar sector. CASREF was a key component of this sugar sector, and therefore we must also reinstate the act that put CASREF in place as opposed to the current CALRO. I also want to request, because I've been looking at the composition of the Committee of Agriculture and Livestock, and it's unfortunate. I don't know what happened with the Honorable Wangwe. I had put Honorable Wangwe as the vice chair when I was the whip. But somehow, when I was checking the members who were the membership of this committee, I didn't see any member from the sugar sector who is in this committee. I was just going to request again, Madam Speaker, going forward, so that these matters of sugar are properly handled and tackled in Parliament and at the committee level, we need to approach the Speaker and the leadership of both sides of the House to get some 2 or 3 members from the sugar growing zones so that they can help us articulate issues of sugar sector. I also wanted to request, Madam Speaker, I know eventually this bill will end up in the Senate. And in the Senate, that's where we have agents of sugar barons. We have agents of sugar barons in the Senate, and I can see this bill dying in the Senate just because the sugar barons, given that this is
Honorable Washiali, you know, I'm really trying to restrain myself from interfering with you. First, you said that the Agriculture Committee is improperly constituted because it doesn't have members from a certain region. And for sure, you know that is not part of the consideration that the selection committee takes into account. And now you're saying that you said we have sugar barons or agents of sugar barons in the Senate. That is a very, that's a very heavy point of casting aspersions on members of the Senate. And you know, of course, unless you want to substantiate that,
Madam
then
Speaker,
you must withdraw from
Madam Speaker,
using
I didn't
such
mention
language.
names. Madam Speaker, I didn't mention names.
I'm
saying this because I come from
Honorable
Mumias.
Washiali, Honorable Washiali, of course, members of the Senate exist, and they are members of the, of Parliament. So when you say such a statement, it is improper, unless you're ready to take the next step to substantiate that. So please desist from going that direction.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me withdraw for the sake of making progress on this. But I'm sure members have heard what I said. Honorable Speaker,
Honorable Washiali.
I have withdrawn.
Honorable Washiali, you just withdraw unconditionally, because you have withdrawn with one hand and you are reinstating it with the other hand. So just withdraw unconditionally and then you move on, and you have eaten a lot of your time. You see the light is on.
Madam Speaker, I wish to withdraw and promise that during the committee stage, I will introduce some amendments that will make this act or this bill much better. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
That's in order. Let's have the Honorable Godfrey Osotsi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand here to support this bill and also to thank Honorable Wamunyinyi for bringing this very timely bill. And indeed, Honorable Wamunyinyi is a true party leader who acts and does not lament in funerals, like some of the other party leaders we know. Madam Speaker, as it has been said by my colleagues, this is a very important bill because it is reinstating the Sugar Act, which was there previously. And as you know, they came up with the Crops Act 2013 and came up with AFA. And this AFA, sugar management, was now delegated to a directorate within AFA, just like tea and coffee. And Madam Speaker, AFA, it is a failed experiment because some of the problems now we are having in the sugar industry, even the tea industry, even the coffee industry, are as a result of this merger that was done. And farmers have really suffered, Madam Speaker, in terms of non-payment or late payment for their produce, increase in the cost of production of sugar, declining land acreage, and many, many other challenges that Honorable Munyini alluded to. So this is very timely, and as leaders who come from regions that grow sugar, we are in full support of this initiative, and we will support it. I have gone through the report of the committee, and I also want to thank the committee for their very good input into this. They have made some very good recommendations, and I'm sure that a few areas in this bill will be panel beaten at the committee of the whole House so that to make it even better piece of legislation. Madam Speaker, I have heard Honorable Washali talk about regulations. Madam Speaker, regulations, that is where the devil is. We make laws in this House and leave a substantial part of the lawmaking in form of regulation to other people who frustrate the implementation of the laws we make here. So I would want to support what my colleague Washali has said, is that we need to have a time frame for the formulation and gazettement of regulations. And I'm sure that is something we'll deal with at the committee of the whole House. On the importation of sugar, import of sugar has been one of the major challenges in the sugar industry. And I want to say, though the bill is recommending other safeguard measures, I would wish that the bill should be very explicit on the issue. Takes his cane to the factory, is not able to get the returns he expects to get. Madam Speaker, this bill has also provided for the right of growers. I have read somewhere in the report where some of the stakeholders are questioning why we should give 51% shareholding to the farmers. Madam Speaker, we have failed in the sugar industry because we have not listened to the farmer. We have failed in the sugar industry, and the farmer is the most important person. The farmer is the source of the raw material. Sugar development levy, I want to agree with the position taken by the committee that there is need to increase the levy for imported sugar. The CIF value of the imported sugar from 5% to 10%. This will greatly help in checking the problem of flooding the market with the imported sugar. On the issue of transition, the bill proposes that the employees who used to work for the Sugar Directorate will now be transitioned to the Kenya Sugar Board. I want to suggest that we must conduct suitability interviews for these employees, because there is one thing to have the law, and there is another thing about the people who are involved in managing the whole thing. Some of the people who work at the Sugar Directorate are corrupt, and they should be taken through suitability interviews so that we have the right people to work for the new board that will come up. Madam Speaker, allow me to digress a bit, but still talk about the sugar industry. As I'm standing here, I'm wondering why we do not have the Sugar Task Force report before us. The report was given to the president, but the report has not found legs into this house. It will do justice if we are debating this bill with a report on the task force before us. But several months later, a lot of funds have been used in formulating this report. The report is not before Parliament. So the chairman of Agriculture Committee, but now you move around there and you see what is happening there, you cry for the people of that region. We are asking the government of Kenya, if you love people of Western Kenya, do what you are doing to Kenya Airways, to Mumias Sugar Company. We have seen a lot of efforts in this house, Madam Speaker, to try and nationalize Kenya Airways. We have a bill before us, the National Aviation Management Bill, which is trying to nationalize Kenya Airways and put in more money from the exchequer. The same can be done to Mumias Sugar. Why is it not being done? So I think, Madam Speaker, at the committee of the whole House, we will also introduce amendments so that private sugar millers who collapse for one reason or another are given an opportunity to be nationalized, the same way we are trying to nationalize Kenya Airways using taxpayers' money. Because Mumias Sugar at its best used to give a lot of money through taxation and through shares to the Kenya government. But now that it's down, what are we doing about it? So, Madam Speaker, this is a very important bill. How I wished the MPs who usually talk in funerals from Western Province and accuse Honorable Party Leader here should be in this house discussing this bill, so that when they live here and they go to the funerals, we know they are genuinely working for the people's interest. But you can see they are not here, but on Saturday when we go to funerals, they are the best advisors on matters of sugar. Madam Speaker, for those few remarks, I fully support this bill.
Honorable Osotsi, but surely, members have the freedom to choose when to speak on a matter and when not to speak. Okay? And matters of funerals are not the subject of discussion here. Politics. Let us have the member for Saku, Honorable Raso.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I start by supporting this bill. When the mover, my friend, Honorable Wamunyinyi, was moving this bill, I think he did it with a lot of passion and a lot of accuracy in terms of what is needed.
Your point of intervention?
Madam Speaker, is it in order that the member that is currently contributing be without contributing without a mask?
Thank you.
Honorable Raso, you just put on your mask, but I know the comfort is that you're occupying the whole row. Put your mask on to avoid anxiety.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In almost a circumference of 30 meters, I am the only person. But thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Speaker, so there's an attempt to almost make it feel that this is a Western affair. We feel that the protection of this industry, the making this industry robust and viable to our Kenyan population is really important. What Honorable Osotsi there has said, when we watch the news, or also when we follow the media, it is made to appear that wherever it comes up, that people are fighting over sugar, of who should be a manager of a particular factory, or who should sell what, or who should do what. But I think we must move up the scale, and this bill will allow us to do that. In terms of putting in place a watertight regulation so that people do not abuse the portfolios that they are given, and then they walk away scot-free. The sugar industry in Kenya, one thing we as honorable members must also start thinking, why do we import sugar from Brazil? Why should producing sugar in Brazil be much cheaper than in Mumias? It is a question that begs answers. It is something that then why would people in the state say, let me grow maize instead of sugar? Because it's no longer viable. I think as a country, and also as legislators, we must call upon the government to remove the responsibility of thinking that the Western politicians should manage this industry, but it becomes a central nexus of Kenyan industry. Because I believe they pay taxes. I believe that a policy must be in place that just like we are protecting coffee and tea, and maybe pyrethrum, we must protect also sugar. Madam Speaker, many years back, we used to be told that there are months the sugar industries are closed. So during that time, there is no production, so people must import. I think we must live by the time. The bill that was here before was about reproductive health, where we use technology. I think particularly in the sugar industry, more than anything, it is the high time we must use technology much more rapidly, more efficiently, more productively. Finally, Honorable Speaker, you know sugar is sweet. And it is not just for Honorable Wamunyinyi to almost believe that because he is a grower, he can benefit from it. Actually, the middlemen make more money more than the grower himself. And we must turn the wheel around to say that let the grower, let those who are in the production chain actually benefit more than those who just sell the product at the far end, or those who are brokers and they work with individuals to manipulate this industry. Honorable Speaker, with those remarks, I beg to support, and I thank the mover of this bill. Thank you.
Let's have the member for Kakamega County, and you have about 4 minutes. Just do your beginning, and then you will have a balance of 5 to 6 minutes, probably on Thursday. So organize your thoughts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance, at least to add my voice to this bill, which is very key. Madam Speaker, we know that every household in Kenya uses sugar. So this is a very important bill. And Madam Speaker, I want to add my voice, first of all, on the composition of the board. I think I wish to enrich this composition by stating that it has not compelled that there be people with special groups. So in part 2, number 5, the composition should actually compel that we have youth, women, and people with special needs. And Madam Speaker, also in this bill, I support it by looking at clause 27 to 32, where it states that the sugar growers will have 50% shareholding. Madam Speaker, this is very important because looking at our sugar industry, and with emphasis to Western, where I come from, you find that the farmers have no voice. The farmers are actually deeply frustrated. Right now, if you go to Kakamega, so many farmers have sugarcane that is overgrown and it cannot be cut because the millers dictate when to take this sugar. So you find that farmers are affected, they can't pay their bank loans. You find that these same farmers cannot even pay their fees. So you find the poverty level has really gone up because of this dictatorship of these millers who choose when to pick cane from the sugar growers. So I really support this bill as it will fight for Awinja and Wanjiku so that Wanjiku's voice is heard in this constitution. And Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me more time next time to continue contributing to this bill. But just as I conclude, sorry? Okay. Madam Speaker.
You can actually stop there, Honorable Muhanda. Yeah. You just stop there. It's 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
And then you have a balance of 6 minutes. So make sure you're in the House, most probably next week on Thursday. And then you'll be the first one to continue your contribution. So you can reorganize your thoughts once again. And for the rest of the House, we have a balance of 1 hour, 48 minutes. So it's not all lost for the members who are lined up here. And the others that Honorable Osotsi was looking out for, maybe they'll come next week. So Tuesday, 6th of July, 2021 at 2:30 p.m.